You can view the video of this podcast on Jazz Cabbage's YouTube or Facebook pages. Welcome to Jazz Cabbage Café, everybody.
Did we get the music that time?
No.
Jesus Christ, man.
I didn't hear it.
I was rocking out to it, so everybody else who was out there can vicariously experience that with me. So early on, Ryan Basore has joined us. That's very cool. Starting right off the bat with him, which is good. Rick is here, Colin and Deb, and we'll hear from Jim, and he's going to be on location at a retail store in Ann Arbor, Apothecary, with their GM, Drew Hall. That'll be cool. And then we'll be joined in a little bit by Jerry Millen, and we'll talk about the pot for shots. Is that right? Yep, I actually got that right. I'm surprised. And then Stacy Theus or Tice will join us, give us an update on Richard DeLisi, Cannabis, other stuff going on. Just kind of join the conversation, and then she's going to work on helping us get Richard and his daughter on here in a few weeks. I got this Red Wing hat on, which is from the shoe store, and I want to make sure they know I really appreciate them. And I drop my shoes off there. You get lifetime service when you buy shoes from there. And I won't say exactly what I did. That was stupid, which may or may not include having a large bill stuck way into my shoe that I found while they were.
There's like a bullet hole in that bill, by the way.
And
what's up with that?
It's a duck bill, actually. It's a piece of a bird that we found in this shoe. So, yes.
So anyway, those guys did a great job, and they're very honest. And Old Red Wing Shoe Store, and this one's in Royal Oak. So I really want to make sure I acknowledge how cool they are for that. Some bits of news going on. In fact, this might be good for getting some responses here too when we get going. Rick's, I think, gonna start off working with Ryan on an announcement for us. But let me throw a couple things out there. Our new United States, or in the process of becoming our new United States Attorney General, is speaking, like going back to the Obama times and officially making a policy of the Department of Justice to lay off states that have their own cannabis policies and systems in place. New Jersey legalized, but or that finally went through. We talked about it here before. It passed by the people, but they have a process where it has to then go to the legislature, and that's been difficult. And it finally went through. It doesn't have home grows. I mean, it's we can recognize it as adding to the list, but kind of wish that it went all the way and had home grows. And and checks started being distributed based on the collection of excise tax to the localities. I think Adrian and maybe a couple others have checks on the way or have gotten checks now for that whole program. So anyway, Rick, take it away.
Mr. Basore, are you available and online to join us, sir?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Well, we wanted Ryan to be online here because we have a big announcement for Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Next week's show, we're going to be featuring an interview and a live appearance with Mr. Michael Thompson. And Michael Thompson, as everyone knows, was probably America's most famous cannabis POW. Was recently emancipated in January. He has a new home now. He's going to talk about his effort to assist those prisoners still remaining in jeopardy within the penal system itself, and let everybody know how he's doing. And then we're going to maybe have a couple of people to talk with Michael a little bit during the broadcast, including Mr. Basore. So Ryan, thanks for everything you've done for Michael. And what do you think about that, big guy?
It's exciting. One of the concerns, obviously, for Michael is when you get out of prison, especially after 25 years, is just feeling comfortable and getting talking. And it seems like he's really getting, like jumping out and running and really, really motivated. And it's awesome. So can't wait to have him on the show and people get to talk and meet him. He's a great guy, and we got a big time activist. And as we keep on getting more of these guys and women out of jail, we're going to have a lot more dedicated activists. So it just, it's all good. All gravy.
Michael Thompson, there were many, many people that helped to secure Michael's release, but Redemption Foundation and yourself reaching out to the Attorney General's office the Cannabis Caucus, bringing it to the Attorney General's attention, the letter that she wrote to the Michigan governor, plus all the work that Sean King and Dee Dee Kirkwood and all the others have done over all the years to publicize this and make sure that it didn't go away. They all contributed. But since he's been out, Michael's had quite a bit of outpouring and support from the cannabis community, including the home we just talked about. I mean, his home fund was a GoFundMe that amazingly collected a ton of money, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it was close to 300K or more, and that's just it's great to see. And I like to look online just to gauge different things, especially with cannabis, and see what people are saying. And it was 95% very positive for cannabis and for Michael, and 90%. And unfortunately, there are people that were mad about it, and I always like to see who they voted for too. So I guess you can assume that.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Go ahead. No.
Jazz Cabbage has a history of inviting people on that have had troubles with the legal system and showcasing their stories. Last week we had Michael Toohey on. You yourself, of course, very storied individual, had a problem with law enforcement too regarding cannabis. And as Jamie mentioned earlier, working to get Richard DeLisi on as well. So, it's time now, isn't it? We have to continue to keep attention of the nation on those people that have been in those bad situations while the interest is still there. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's not going to stop either. It's just the whole concept of putting the pedal to the metal and strike when the iron's hot. Nothing's ever a given, and in life and politics and momentum, and so it's time. Look how close things were getting, how great things were. Looking with Jimmy Carter for a little bit with marijuana, and look how bad it went the other way. So no, it's time. It's time to keep it going. Get everybody that gets out. We have unique experiences, and just hearing Michael talk about his brothers that were in there, and the living conditions that you get used to. It's just besides marijuana and there, criminal justice reform. So, cannabis has been charged with leading the way. So let's lead the way.
And because there's so much outpouring from Michael, really some of the funds, from the Freedom Fund, the coalition, designed to kind of help out in some ways, didn't really have to go there. And they can be teed up now for the other people we hope to continuously get out, and we can still raise for that. And I was on the Hash Bash discussion committee today for the production that's upcoming in April, and funds are going to go to that coalition and to the Sinclair Legacy Foundation as well.
That's great. We'll have some more announcements, but as you guys are a part of it, the group, the Michigan Cannabis Prisoner Relief Fund, but we've also started a coalition and have getting some great members, and this is more for the clemency, and we're working with Norm Reimer and also the NADL, the National Association of Defense Lawyers. And whether it sounds like right now, whether we get backing by the governor or not, we're going to start submitting all of these. It's quite a thing that's happening. We'll talk more about it when we can get Mike McCurdy on here, but we're moving forward, and like that same group, more money's being raised, but we've got a team of lawyers that's ready to go, and we're going to start doing it one way or the other. So it's not stopping in Michigan. We'll see a lot more happen this year with people getting out. So you guys are going to have to pick up an extra day of shows or something to handle all, I guess.
And you got your show too. We should mention while we're talking about shows, part of the great family of shows in Michigan that we have, Smoke and Rope.
Yep, we got Michael Toohey on Thursday morning, 10 a.m. live from Houghton, Michigan.
Nice.
Yep. No, so now Berg just joined us. I'll let him know what our special news was, since we wouldn't tell him last night on Medical Mondays. Next week, Michael Thompson will be guesting on the show. He'll be being interviewed and appear for us. Brian, when we talk about Redemption Foundation and the number of people out there that are available, to help with clemency, it's not just state based too; it's federally based as well. I know we got Jerry Duvall. We've got we got some real high profile
Lance
guys.
Glore. Yep.
Yeah, Lance Glore.
Well, exactly, and Jerry's probably going to be out. He's out soon before like this wave hit. It's unfortunate. Obviously I was in prison with his son Jeremy and become buddies. Just a cut and clear case like mine, even more I think of being a caregiver. And then there's Danny Trevino. I had a good conversation. I'm gonna start talking about it. The way the federal system works, like we're about to have new USAs. We got a new president. We're gonna have new United States attorneys. If we would have talked too much, or people like me say too much with before that happened to make a big deal, there's sometimes there's retribution at stake. So it's crazy. We got to think about that. But it's time. Danny Trevino beat every state case he had for running marijuana dispensaries in Lansing. And a Jackson one, and they gave him 13 years. They targeted him when they got me. They had me detained multiple times. The first thing they always want to know is, what do you know about Danny? So they wanted him since 2010, and that's something I think we've got to start beating that drum shortly. And when we get to do USAs, it's definitely time.
Yep. And of course, federal clemency typically involves the White House, and there's a long list of people waiting for that service because there's 50 states, and there are certain things we can and can't do. But we are allied with a national group of other like-minded parties, including Last Prisoner Project and others. Can you talk about that, Ryan?
Yeah, we that's the group Last Prisoner Project, Montel Williams, Wheat Maps, which is they have a full-time position now for someone who's been there. His name's Candy. Awesome advocate. Talked to her, and she's been there 11 years, kind of seen it all, and they're getting involved, and more and more national groups, and whether they're celebrities or corporations are looking to get involved. And one thing also that's not a part of the group, but who I had on my show last week that has probably done the most federally, I think is Weldon Angelos and Bishop Green, who got clemency from Obama after 13 years on a 55-year federal sentence for 3 ounces. And then he just got pardoned by Trump. And he's really doing a lot. There's a big documentary coming out about him soon that shows even the behind-the-scene process. So that's really cool. On another note, I was talking to Weed Maps, and they were saying that Michigan is by far their number 2 most trafficked state, and they think out in California that Michigan's got the second best flower in the country too. So in case anyone was wondering, I was interested to hear. I can't argue with that.
We've talked about that on the show. We've had national figures on this show, people who have internationally experienced cannabis, and we are definitely recognized here in Michigan amidst the best in the world at this point.
I don't know if you've been on a clubhouse meeting, but all they do is talk about how great California's weed is. It's quite annoying, I think.
Well, I think
there is some great weed in California.
I know, but I just want to hear, that Michigan's weed is great.
Well, when I vended at the Las Vegas Cannabis Cup, and I had some left over, and one of the people that bought up my overstock was a grower from California. I had 3 strains that she did not have, that were not available, and she thought they were really good. So she bought them and took them back and put them into her dispo in California.
Nice.
The industry
number of years ago.
has a California-centric feel to it. People always think, because let's face it, they were the first, just like Colorado was the first to go adult use, and you can go right down the line. That's why Michigan being first in things like social equity, it's important. We set the tone. California set the tone for everybody that came after them, and so did Colorado. So we have to do a better job. That's what I think. And I think Redemption Foundation and the other agencies that we're working with are one of the ways in which we level that playing field.
Yeah.
Well, they weaponized a lot of people in Michigan. Bill Schuette weaponized a lot of people, like Bouchard, all the different prosecutors, Ken all those guys, they caused this for us to be so strong because we're so affected by it. And, so obviously everybody here knows, but most people know somebody that's been rated as a caregiver now. I think it's BS. So, we got a lot of activists, a lot of personal emotions.
There are a lot of people that come to cannabis and believe in it. There are very few people that stop believing in cannabis. So every year that goes by, every time something happens, more and more people are converted to our cause. And that's why at this point we're seeing support for medical on a national basis at
90s.
80s or 90s. And support for rec at 63% nationally. Now, I mean, I don't know if you noticed or not, but nothing else has 63% support nationally.
There's a lot of, and it'll be higher too. It'll just be part of the fabric. It'll take a little while. There's some resistance. There's people who don't like it, but it's heading in that direction. Just wish it was a little quicker.
Well, that's just underscores the need for the Redemption Foundation and what we're doing. Ryan, talk about some of the people that are on the advisory committee for the Redemption Foundation, because you don't very often speak about that, and that's really an amazing collection of personalities and experts, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really proud of that, and definitely lends a lot of credibility to what I'm trying to do. Of course, there's Jamie Lowell, Rick Thompson. Besides that, a lot of cannabis, people and activists, Mark Passerini. We also have retired Judge Giddings over by me. He's he definitely is a legend as far as around Meyer, as a mentor to a lot of the legal community. Bob Eldori. We
Boogie
have
Bob.
State Senator Jeff Irwin. We got Reggie Reg out of Detroit. We got Eric Quinette, Q, Jeff Demuth over at Act Labs, Kevin Pybus, Krista Beller. I'm forgetting. Dory Edwards. There's a lot.
You say Dennis?
What's that?
Dennis?
Oh, Dennis. Yeah. Geez. Of course, Dennis Shordak, who retired policy advisor for Engler and Snyder, and then also was the North American border head for Bush before Bush fired him.
But then he challenged.
One guy you want to have a beer with. Dennis Shornak is an awesome human being. He has some great stories.
Well, yeah, he got told to do something illegal by actually Barr attorney. He got into it with Barr, the old AG. He told me the story. It was fascinating. And they were telling him that he had to do something that was against the Constitution, and he refused, and they fired his ass.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Jim Salame is about to come online too, Ryan. I know your time is precious, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to stay for Jim or to wrap up your thoughts if you needed to get off.
Oh, I'll stay on and listen to the show. How about that?
That's wonderful. All right, great. Jamie Lowell, let's kick it over to Jim. You do it.
Hey, Jim, what's happening, man?
Hey, I'm here with Drew Hall.
Hey, Drew.
Hi.
Man, I had the pleasure of being over there a couple of weeks ago and talked about it a little bit on here, but we've been able to arrange, because Jim is, I mentioned a hash bash earlier. Jim's kind of having a little round of discussions with people in Ann Arbor about hash bash and stuff like that, and really wanted to see this store for himself. So we thought we would do an on location kind of a thing. So thank you very much for coming in, and what is happening over there.
Well, Apothecary's been generous enough to support Hash Bash in donating $420 for the cause. This money goes towards the helpful organization that we're doing, along with the John Sinclair Foundation, and helping with Michigan Freedom Cannabis Coalition.
Yeah.
So there's some really great things happening with Hash Bash this year. And I just want to show you this beautiful place. Everything here is organic, all the way down to the bags, and even the packaging is biodegradable. It'll break down after a few years. But I'm just going to swap out this camera. Am I able to switch this out? Yeah, look at this.
Sounds like you guys are lashing the customers there. I hear a lot of whacking.
It's organic, just
Oh yes, okay, you're right.
things
They
just
like that.
unfold, in there. It's all right.
Excellent.
Yeah, a really
maybe
beautiful
you can
place.
It
put
looks
a
really
Jim
cool,
on
man.
Spotlight, maybe.
This looks nice on this camera view. It looks really nice in person too.
Doesn't
It's
it?
really well thought out.
Not as good as this view, but
You're right.
what's the address here again, Drew?
2793 Plymouth Road. So we're on the north side of Ann Arbor, by North Campus, in the Plymouth Mall. So like Plymouth and Nixon, if you know the area.
Okay.
Hey,
And what are
Jim.
your hours of operation?
Currently, until the weather gets a little bit warmer and the sun's up in the sky a little bit later, we're 11 to 7 Monday through Saturday and 12 to 5 on Sundays. And we do deliver for free in a 30-mile radius with a $100 minimum. So a couple eggs.
Awesome.
Jim,
Awesome.
there's a lit up tree all the way at the end of the corridor that you're at. You had it on the other day. Would you take and show us that? That really looked like an amazing piece of lobby art.
It is a great piece of lobby art. Let's take a look at this.
Oh, there it is. Look at that.
The whole theme, and each section is sectioned off by one of those tree pieces there.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's
section.
really well laid out and just a good atmosphere and energy in here, guys. I picked up some Death Star, some bubble gum, and the lemon alderon, which is smells amazing.
Yeah.
But Lemon Alderon explodes, so it's, yeah, whatever. Star Wars reference.
Hey, but we're gonna sign off. Just wanted to say hi to everybody, introduce Apothecare, and thank them for the support. And
Drew will
onward
be
and
on.
upwards, everybody. I'll see you a little later.
Thanks, Jim. Come
All right,
back on if
Jim.
you can. And Drew's going to be on in a couple of weeks to talk a little bit more
Cool.
Nice job.
about
see you
that
guys
operation there. It's vertically integrated and with all organic practices. So very cool. Only one
See you
doing
guys.
that we know of. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Hey.
And Shelly joined us in the meantime too.
Jerry Millen flipped on and then off. He'll be back on again too. Shelly Smith, are you out there?
Hey, Shelley.
Shelly
Shelly,
is
you're on
giving us the
mute.
silent
Oh wait, by the way,
I'm
Jerry
here.
Millen came
I'm
on
here.
right
My
at
phone was
4:20.
dying and I was walking around, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm here.
It's 422.
Yeah, but Jerry Millen came on right at
Yeah,
4:20 as he said he was going to. I think maybe he saw there was some tomfoolery going on and then
We
jumped.
seem like Shelley's glamour shot or something.
Mhm.
I'm here.
I hear you, but I just see like an image of you.
Like an amputee.
Well, because I'm walking around and moving around and,
Oh, okay.
and charging my phone and, yeah.
Eating chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here he is.
it's like
All right, here we go. Here comes the
Well,
man.
that was a really great interview with Apothecare, and now we're going to jump to another really great interview with somebody that Jamie and I have known for quite a while, Jerry Millen from Greenhouse in Wall Lake. Take it away, Jamie.
Hey Jerry, how you doing, man? You're here with a bunch of us.
Sorry about that, man.
No problem.
Had to update. Had to
Right on
update
at
my
420. You
my
saw
software.
there was a bunch of tomfoolery going on, and you just jumped off.
I was like, "What's going on?" I thought it was a raid. I had to jump out, man.
So wait, Ryan Basore on the phone here with us. Shelly Smith. You got Berg from Medical Mondays. Colin McDougall, Deborah Young, and Rick Thompson. And so welcome to the show. And we wanted to acknowledge a few things. First of all, you're celebrating 2 years, your 2-year anniversary of operation.
It's crazy. I know. Seems like yesterday.
Well, you had the place set up ready to operate well before then. You're just
Oh
ready.
yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't want Sheriff Bouchard to come get me, so I was ready to go. I had licensed locally, but I didn't execute the license. I paid for him, but I didn't open because I knew I'd be taken to jail. So I just waited.
I drove
Yeah,
by
I
it a
did
few
that, so-
times, and it was
Glad you,
Sign
glad
was
you
on,
learned from our
everything.
lesson. Yeah.
Yes.
Oak Park. Ooch.
and your store carries products from people who we like and who we know, including Real Leaf Solutions.
Yep.
We love
And
Chris
Ryan, we got some of Ryan's stuff in here from Redemption.
and Redemption stuff is in
I think
there
we need
too.
some more Redemption, don't we? Yeah, we got a Redemption.
Yeah, you need more.
We have a whole lot.
Yeah.
Basore
Ryan is
chimes
con-
in and says, "Yeah,
Ryan
you
is concurring. That you could use a little
Ryan's
more.
going, yeah, you need more. You need more.
I'm trying to establish the name of the company as Rydemption, kind of like Ryan and Redemption. So we'll work that out in packaging.
I like it.
Right.
Man, and you got a lot of attention. I mean, national interviews and stuff like that for your program of giving people a joint if they demonstrate that they have gotten the vaccination.
Yeah,
Man,
and
that's
it's
awesome.
it's the BBC's coming out next week actually. They're going to do a story for the BBC. They called me yesterday from Washington D.C. and asked if they want to do a story. I said absolutely. So yeah, no, it's been kind of Russia today reached out, place in New Zealand, Brazil. It went international, which blew my mind. I never thought in a million years it would get that big, but hey, we'll take it because any way to normalize cannabis is a good thing in my mind.
Right.
But when you inspire other people to do good things, then it is the acts of individuals on a daily basis where they didn't expect a huge notoriety that sometimes make the biggest splash.
Yep, and it was honestly one of the cheapest promotions I've ever had to do, and got the most press out of it, which was amazing. It beat the chicken sandwich from Popeyes, which I couldn't believe.
Right, I was gonna say, wasn't there a similar giveaway that you've had in the past?
Yeah, we did chicken sandwiches, coins for cannabis. I'm always looking for because we can't advertise other than billboards really, and I'm always looking for something different. So when there was a coin shortage, I'm like, who to go to? Let me go to my customers and my patients. They always come through. So I said coins for cannabis, and we had people bring in silver dollars rolled up. It was crazy, but we got a ton of coins. It got me through the coin shortage. And then, with the COVID thing, I talked to my friends over at U Baked and said, hey, you guys want to supply the flour? And they said, sure. So I said, all right, let's do this. And it snowballed. We've given away almost 4,000 of them so far. A lot of t-shirts, a lot of food.
I heard the 2,000 number at one point. Man,
yeah, I know. 2,000. Yeah, because NBC came out last week and did 3 hits on CNBC and MSNBC. We're on Shepard Smith on Friday on CNBC, and it's blowing up. So we extended it for 30 more days. I'm like, because there's been a problem with the vaccine rollout, and we have a lot of seniors that come to the greenhouse. So a lot of seniors got their free pod, and a lot of the frontline. We have a lot of teachers. They don't want to. When the news crew shows up, they're like, "Oh no, we can't be on TV. We're teachers," or they're frontline workers. But they can drink a fifth of vodka, and that's okay. Which which pisses me off. But hey, it's cannabis.
Well, I like the way you use the term normalize.
Yeah, that's what we have to do. And I think the more that we can do things to show our good nature, that we're not just a bunch of dumb stoners. I think that that speaks volumes. And the more we can get international press and national press, and they just talk about it like it's, because my goal one day is, it should be as normal as going, hey man, you want to have a beer? That's totally acceptable. So you should be like, hey man, you want to smoke a joint? Want to eat a gummy? This should be totally acceptable. And
I've been doing that for a while.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it's normal.
Right.
Some of us were already there.
We're way ahead of you, buddy.
Right.
You talk about slinging some goodwill. You turkeys and a Christmas gift thing for families. You have a string of charitable actions in your history at Greenhouse and Walled Lake. And, as a member of the community, I'd like to thank you for giving us all the positive press that you do and always representing well in all the interviews. There are sometimes people open their mouth and I cringe. I don't worry about you. You're a good guy to talk to press.
Thanks. I try. We're doing we're restoring a house here that got moved. It's a former Underground Railroad house, so we're putting some money into that. No, look, man, COVID, it's weird in the sense that COVID was good for business. I have friends that have restaurants and stuff, and I feel bad for them. It's a weird feeling to know that it's like you're happy that we did good business wise, but then you have friends whose businesses are falling apart. So we made money. All the cannabis companies made money, and that's why all the time I challenge these guys. There's a lot of people making a lot of money in this industry that aren't giving jack shit back. And all they want to do is sell weed, and selling weed right now is easy. But this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and it's going to take my goal is to be here a long time. And at some point, it's not going to just be selling weed anymore. You got to set yourself apart because there's still some players in this game that are just all about money. And I got into it 16 years ago. I've known you guys a long time, helping out patients, and I think that's one thing you don't see much, especially in dispensaries. Nobody talks about patients anymore. Nobody. They could care less. And it's like, that's such bullshit, because without the patients, none of us would be where we are. None of us. I bring up Bella all the time and Ida in interviews, because without Bella, and a lot of people don't even know who Bella is. That's what infuriates me, is if it weren't for that little girl, I don't know where we'd be today, and so there's a lot of people that haven't gotten credit. And there's a lot of people, as you guys know, that are riding their coattails, coming into this, a year ago or 2 years ago, demanding, I should have a license. No, man, we've been doing this 16, 25, 30, 40 years,
So I definitely noticed how you were out there supporting the continuation of caregiver contribution for as long as possible. And I appreciate that too. I think that was a proven system. Besides the fact that there was no parameters put in place and people abused it, the mere fact that if somebody's got some product that meets standard, you know, in some way, let's get it into the
I would
marketplace.
listen. I wish we could still do it. I mean, let's be honest. The caregiver flower didn't go away. You know, it didn't go away. It's
They were
still there.
encouraged to feed them to
Right.
be the inventory providers for the longest time, and then just said, okay, at this date, that's over. And then there was like, that was pretty much it.
Right.
Yeah,
Amen.
ramp up your production and then all of a sudden put the brakes on it. No, that's not realistic. It's not. So
No, it's horrible. I was not
So
happy about it.
we just agree with you. Like I'm with the botanical company now, and the philosophy and approach there is also patient focused. I mean, of course, we you know have no problem hooking somebody up to
Right.
have some cannabis if they want. But for those who want to go
Right.
down the road, some help of health and wellness, we want to be prepared for that.
Right.
With ACE Americans for Safe Access and some of their information and training and things like that, and they have a certification process that utilizes the herbal pharmacopoeia standards, basically says you handle it as plant medicine, and they give their stamp of approval in that way. And just in the light of the fact that the medical program, the thing that's called the medical program, is going to go away one way or another, it's a way to something to point to that we still care about the health and wellness approach, and those who, you know, need a medical, you know, kind of
Yeah, because, well, I mean, you know, the funny thing is, Jamie, that I've seen this owned in the store for 2 years now. A lot of people didn't want to get their card because they didn't want to be on a list, which, like, man, I can understand because they say a list is protected. We know it's all bullshit. But at the end of the day, you know, the medical and rec, they're gonna mold it together, and patients are going to be left out in the cold. And I mean, whatever I can do to fight that, I will. It's very difficult, but I made a commitment here at the greenhouse that as long as there's a medical license, I will carry that license here because it's important. And I try to make sure my bud tenders are, you know, a lot of my bud tenders have ailments. So when people come in for rec product now, people that didn't want to get a card are now finding out that there is some medicinal value in cannabis, whether it's sleep or anxiety or pain. They're finding out as rec users that there's, you know, I'm still telling people, get your card. It's going to save you some money. You're going to save that stupid 10% tax.
when, of course, every pediatric patient in Michigan can only access cannabis through the use of the medical system. We can't ever let that go away because the kids, and I mean, they use the kids against us for years and years and years, but it's a great argument why we need to preserve the caregiver system.
You bring up a good point too, Jerry. Even if you go to use cannabis just to have fun, you can't avoid getting some benefit from it.
Right. That's the crazy thing. That's what I mean. Look, man, hopefully in our lifetime, which I think we will, we'll see this thing legal across the US, and there's studies that need to be done. Cause you know, when I go to these conferences, you know, like MJ Biz or whatever, I meet professors from like Arizona that want to do these studies, and they tell us about how they can't get the DEA to sign off for the study. I mean, are you serious right now? Like every state is dropping like flies around the country, and the DEA won't sign off on testing, or, you know, it blows my mind. We're still talking about this, to be honest. It should have been done long ago.
Yeah. At least we have an administration now that seems like they're willing to move forward with the dialogue. We've had mixed signals and a lot of stop signs for the last, you know, let's just call it 12 years. So.
I wanted to bring that up, and now's a good time, and your thoughts on it, maybe Ryan too would be good. You know, the person pegged to be our United States Attorney General is saying that he's going to follow the line of Obama and make it policy not to interfere with states that have their own system in place. That policy back in the Obama day was not complete because it wasn't law, wasn't, you know, things were
Right.
not descheduled, it wasn't passed or anything, but it allowed things to move without that type of interference. And if that's the case, getting started with this right now, I think that's a good starting place as we encourage this to become cemented into law.
Yeah, I think honestly, in the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to have any choice, because I think almost you're going to see 60-70% of the states, I think, in the next 4 years get on board, maybe more. And at some point, the federal government, let's be honest, all they care about is money. They're going to come in and figure out how they can take their piece of the pie. And I think it'll be federally legal then.
It's that letter B that says billion instead of M with million. It's the B that draws the federal attention, and it makes it inevitable they'll get in.
Ryan, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, I do want to point out to you, Jamie, that in 2009, 10, that was Obama's stance and holders, and I took that to heart, and I got into marijuana, and his organization still federally rated me. So you can say that, but as long as that, without the Robacher bar, or now it's the Lumenauer bar, whatever, without that, that statement is good, but it didn't stop Obama from raiding more people than Bush. So I just want to point that out.
No, that's true, and that's why it's got to be cemented into law. And what Ryan was referring to is the fact that funding's been taken away from the feds for enforcement on cannabis activity in states that allow for it in one way or
But
another.
that's really the problem of making policy by memo, right? Is that a memo is just a statement of policy. It is not a change in law. That's why, as much as we hate to do it, you have to fight your way through the legislative process to get firmly entrenched rules, so that guys like Jerry and Jamie and myself that have been in the industry for a bit, we know exactly where our lines are, where we can walk and where we can't, and that way, it's the only fair way to allow Americans to do business, really.
You know, the funny thing, though, I think about all administrations is what's the memo? Was it Cole memo, right? Cole memo, right?
Mhm.
So I was at, it was kind of ironic. The Trump administration was in, and Jeff Sessions was Attorney General, and I was at LAX, and I got off the plane, and I ran into none other than Eric Holder at LAX, and I'm like, Eric Holder. So I went up to him and I said, Mr. Holder, I introduced myself to him, and I said, you know, what do you think about the Cole memo? Do you think Jeff Sessions is going to mess with it? And it's kind of weird because he was like, Cole memo. Oh, marijuana. So he didn't even really, so I'm like, it took a little prodding for him to realize what the Cole memo was. So I'm going, how much was Eric Holder really even like in tune with cannabis? And because, you know, all politicians, man, they tell us what we want to hear. And I just read that the DOJ just wrote like a 22-page memo on the IRS tax code 280E, which kills us all as a business. And they said, as of right now, they're going to uphold the IRS. And I'm just like, what? I thought, you know.
And that's because they're forcing the legislature to make the change. They said, we don't want to make the change administratively. We want the legislature to make a change for all the reasons we just outlined.
Another reason to make it permanent.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, make it permanent, you know. So we'll see if, you know, if these guys that came in will toe the line. I'm hoping.
The other part of that conversation, and we got into this in Medical Mondays a little bit, is to what degree should the federal government be involved in this? And there were some things we didn't like about the MORE Act that passed, you know, at the end of last session, including a 5% tax, barring some people depending on their record or, you know, previous other things that just didn't really make that much sense. I kind of like the idea of just taking it off the schedule and alleviating the conflict between the states and the federal government and letting us come up with the, you know, each state try this out and we can come up with the best system eventually by that.
And I think that'll help keep some of the corporate guys out for a while, because that's our biggest thing. You know, what the problem is, we want federal legalization, and once we get it, we could all just go away.
But the discussion is
adding
tax, becoming part of the regulatory scheme and all types of shit like that. So
Hey,
go ahead, Jerry.
I look, I'd be good. Just let the states, let them do their thing. Just take it, you know, reschedule it, and that's what I would love first. Let that happen for 4 or 5 years. Because eventually the big boys are coming. You know they're going to come for us.
Once the multi-state operators are able to actually cross state lines with product, then the guy that owns 72 dispensaries in Florida, then, you know, they're going to chew it up. They'll be the Pixie Wiggly or Winn-Dixie of the cannabis
Wiggly,
right. So, you know, Piggy Wiggy.
Piggly Wiggly, right.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
you shop where you shop, I shop where I shop. All right. But, you know, fact is, what we're really going to see is a bunch of corporate conglomerates trying to grab up as much of the industry as they possibly can, trying to be the 7-Eleven, the next.
Oh yeah, and believe me, they're already here. Loom is one of them. I'll call them out, like, because I have a big greenhouse first corporate weed that I use as like a mantra, and I didn't think it would take a hook, but it did. Loom is not happy with me because they're down the street from me, and I didn't even know it upset them, but that wasn't even directed at Loom. That was directed at Green Peak, Jeff Radway, the greenhouse for corporate weed. But I come to find out that, wow, Loom is pretty upset with it. But do I give a shit? Not really.
Well, aren't they both members of the Cannabis Manufacturers Association, that lobbying group that?
Yeah. I don't think Loom is Loom, Ryan?
I'm pretty sure
Loom
they
is
are.
not, but Loom's
not.
not, but they're their own entity. That's just, you know, like they're on the same camp, just not part of that group.
Thank you.
Philosophically aligned, but doing it themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. kind of like choice.
Yeah, there's a group of people out there that have identified themselves as a self-described gigantic players in the market and want to try and dominate the legislative sphere and dictate to Republican lawmakers what they're going to do in the legislature to support the industry. So we have to watch out.
Yeah. Cannabis Pioneers 2.0, they like to call themselves.
Oh, is that what? Yeah, okay.
They're a few generations off. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to stick to selling tires. So
That's a discount tire, guys. Yes,
did I say that out loud? That was an internal
I
thought. I'm
bet their
sorry.
weed. I bet their weed might taste like tires too.
I didn't say that, but hey.
A growing medium might have some retread in it. Okay.
Oh man.
Wow. No idea.
Oh, I'm in trouble. It's all right,
Speculative,
okay. I
everybody.
love
We
it.
don't know, but
Right. We don't know. Right. You know what they did? I gotta tell you a story. You know what they did to me? I gotta tell the story. I haven't told you. You know what they did to me? During the first outbreak of COVID, we were allowed to do curbside. So I got about 100 parking spots, and we were doing 1,400 cars a day. It was crazy out there. They got so desperate, they hired a box truck to drive around my parking lot that says the grass is greener at our house. Shorter line. Oh yeah. Shorter lines, cheaper prices. So someone went out. You're gonna love this. I gotta tell the story because they're gonna be really pissed that I did.
Wait, who did this?
Not too many people
Loom
come
did.
to our place.
Loom.
Shorter
Loom Cannabis, Lume Cannabis.
Loom did. So
come by and find out
They
why.
came on your
Shorter lines.
property?
they drove around the building and through our parking lot. Yeah.
With a van.
Yeah, with the giant box van with signs on the side of it. So
Giant billboard driving through there
Yeah.
saying shop at our place.
So number one, if I suck that bad as an operator and you can pull my customers with a box van, then I might as well just close my store. But second, my employees weren't happy about it. I wasn't even at the store at the time. They're sending me pictures. Well, I guess that day somebody put 2 or 3 negative reviews up about Loom. And so I called the CFO, CEO, Doug, somebody, and he's like, oh, no, Jerry, that's not how we operate. I'm sorry, we won't do it again. But, there were 3 negative reviews left on Google by somebody the same day. So we find that very disturbing. So I was like, listen, I will ask my employees. I don't know who did it. I don't know why I'm being held accountable for some negative Google reviews. I go, I'll ask my employees if they put those negative reviews up, the 3, take them down. So I did that. They didn't come down. The next week, wouldn't you know, the damn truck showed up. So I called him again, or I sent him a text. I said, is this how you want to go? And his response was, everything we're doing is completely legal. So I went, okay, but I'm kicking their ass in Walled Lake. They can't stand it. So I'll leave it at that. But that's how they operate. So,
but that's not the action of a successful company, Jerry. That's the action of a desperate individual.
That's right. It was desperation. It made me, I felt like, legitimized. I'm like, you got 16 stores and you're going to have to go after the little greenhouse. It makes you look stupid, but I loved it. And then to tell me we won't do it again and then do it again. We'll see how long we'll see.
I would so much love to get a photo or 2 of those. Did that appear in any media at all, any place?
No, I might still have a couple pictures of the truck. I'll look. I'll send it to you if I can find them.
Man, it'd be
the grass. Yeah, the grass is greener at our house. Green. I'm like, going, really? Are you shitting me? And they're like, it wasn't directed at you. I'm like, really?
So
okay.
It costs a couple
Did they
bucks.
did they come on your?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, did they actually come on your property, or did they just cruise around? So that's why they're saying.
Well, I have the way my
property
property's set up is I have. Yeah, the way the property's set up, I have the store on one corner and I bought the adjacent parking lot on the corner, so it's across the street. So they drove through the parking lot and around the building. I don't think it worked.
Right.
But
they kind of stayed in like a public area so that you couldn't like call the cops and say, oh, they're like right.
Oh, I wouldn't even call. I think I love it. Yeah, I think it's humorous because it makes them look stupid.
I think it's hilarious. Yeah, I think it's pretty hilarious. It makes them look ridiculous.
They use their
probably one of your customers who were like who had been to Loom and was like, fuck this place, and saw the box truck like going
around.
Just
reinforce it. These guys this is a douchebag move here. I mean, they have deep pockets. Obviously, they're all.
Yeah.
So they use their resources to get this truck, to have a driver, to have the graphic image made and put on there.
Big box truck, not a little one, a giant box truck, 3 sides. Oh yeah.
I mean, that's just a douche.
Kind
of a move.
Yeah, it felt kind of good. Yeah, it felt kind of good though, because it's like they're worried about little old me. I got one store.
Jerry.
You're
used to having haters, Jerry Millen. Good.
I know.
Now, Jerry, do you have any plans for any additional stores?
Yeah, I'm working on a couple stores, but obviously, with COVID. And what I've been doing is I'm trying to identify cities I want to be in. Because what happens, as you all know, is that a city will say we're going to opt in, and 5,000 people run there, and they buy all the property, and property values triple, and everybody fights for the same license, and then they don't get it, so then they sue the city, and then the city pulls the licenses and says we're not doing this. So I'm trying to work with some cities that I want to be in. So I approach city councils and say, hey, this is how an operation should look. I invite them down. I have city council members and mayors coming through the store all the time. because they want to see how a store should operate. And they want to
That's the way
talk to
to
me
do
about, and it's a slow roll. I don't look one store. I've had a lot of, I've been through a lot of adversity through life and with business and things, and running one dispensary the right way is very difficult, especially with all the regulations, and the regulations change. I mean, for God's sake, somebody called in a fake OSHA complaint against me saying we don't wear masks in the back of the house. And we absolutely do. But the problem is when you get all the press that I get, the haters will come out and try to destroy your business. And it's a constant daily battle that I do with fake reports being called in. It's just crazy shit. So just running one store is hard enough. So before I open a second one, I want to make sure this is buttoned down so that the next one can be buttoned down. I think we do a good job here. We got about 60 employees for, one store, which is pretty good. We're employing 60 people here, which is quite a few.
What about that no corporate cannabis policy that you talked about earlier in this presentation?
I just kind of, you're always looking for a little niche, and it's kind of weird because you throw it out there, you don't know what's going to stick, and people are buying the t-shirts. I didn't think they would, the hats. It blows my mind that people want it. Like the people, what people don't remember, or people forget, is like the hippies of the 60s and 70s are 80 and 90 years old now. And we have so many senior citizens coming here that are basically, F the police, power to weed, but they're grandmas, and I love it. It cracks me up, but there's still this huge anti-corporate thing, especially with weed. As time goes on, as we all know, that'll change. People will forget, and they'll go for the cheapest price, or they'll go for the cheapest product. But for right now, I think it does well, because I'm hearing, Skymint and companies like that, the dispensaries for Green Peak, I hear they're not doing well. I drive past them and their parking lots are always empty, which puts a smile on my face. Did I say that out loud? Damn it. Gotta stop that.
I have a similar experience when I drive by that one on Pearson. I go right by every time I get on the expressway.
Hey.
Empty in Lansing too.
Yeah, you got sources empty in Lansing too.
You got to do more than just sell weed and drive box trucks around your competitors.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. You don't start off your reputation in the industry by slamming caregivers and patients and having banners in Lansing saying things like caregiver cannabis is poison. When you start off your relationship with the purchasing customers like that, yeah.
So, at that time, the only people that can purchase from the stores are licensed caregivers and licensed patients registered with the state. And yet they chose to vilify
stupidest thing ever.
A segment.
Wait, who
a
put up
small
the
group of people that
caregivers
could
as
possibly buy
poison
from the
sign?
stores.
Well, that went on for months. That had gone on for months, Shelley. That was part of their campaign.
And so, just a further bitch here about this.
Hang on, Shelley's asking who. It's Green Peak Industries, now known as Skymint.
Oh,
that
yes,
happened,
okay.
in like
Yes,
what?
okay.
2019, right? I think.
Yeah. I mean, it was
Caregiver
all
weed is poison?
That's what they kept saying,
Oh
that you don't
my
know.
I don't know.
People growing it in their basement. It's probably all covered with, mildew and insecticides. That was a big thing.
They were not saying they had dollar signs in their eyes. They weren't saying the kind of return that they expected. They tried to point fingers someplace, and because the state was having caregivers bring cannabis into the system at the time because there was otherwise a lack of supply, they thought that was their competition. That's how they were looking this far out from their face and shot themselves in the foot. It's
they did.
It's important to kind of understand the history, the culture, the nature of the plant.
But they did more than shoot themselves in the foot, though. They gave the entire industry a black eye, Jerry. Don't you agree? People were turned off to regulated purchasing centers in general because of their behavior, I thought.
Yep, 100%. It's funny because I was at that rally and Jeff Radley wasn't too happy because I brought some people with me. And when I saw all his employees getting off the buses for their rally, I was like, wow, look at how this works. So Jeff and, Joe Neller, they don't like me too much. But is Joe Neller still with Green Peak?
No, he's gone.
There you go.
Why did he leave? Does anybody know why? Anybody know why he left?
I maybe tell you.
You're a shit stirrer, Jerry Millen.
No, I'm just wondering because I didn't know he left. And he's
inappropriate, controversial behavior.
Oh, I think I might know. I think I know what that means. Okay.
Possibly. It's
called. You know what I call it? I call it karma.
So they have a lobbyist associated with this
vague enough to be.
So they have a lobbyist associated with this manufacturers association who has historically tried to be involved with spearheading efforts to artificially gain market share for clients in various ways. And we've had to battle that and luckily stave him off almost at every pass. And that, and that stuff is still going on. And these people we're talking about in the sky are who we're talking about right now.
It's going on big time still. And we're going to see there's a bill going on, it's passing around in Lansing, and it's Linder's bill, they're calling it. And yeah, it's not going to go anywhere, but it's just to think that it can happen. But I was at that rally too, Jerry, checking it out. And one of the things I'll never forget thinking about is just the disconnect when, those funny signs with Radway's face were on it. And, somebody might have put them, I heard possibly that they ended up in his yard or something like that. And he was appalled and scared. And that was just out of line. And I was like, look, you're out there trying to trying to get cops to go kick in doors, and you have your fragility. You're hurt because somebody put a sign in your yard. Like that's how much you don't understand what we've been through, asshole. Sorry.
Well, we know what happened with me and him. And so at the rally, I went up to him and introduced myself because I'm not that bad. I walked up, I go, Mr. Radway, how you doing? I'm Jerry Millen. Nice to meet you. He lost his shit. He was wearing his little penny loafers and no socks, and all the suits were around him. And he's like, I don't want to talk to you. Are you responsible for my face being on these signs? And I'm like, I don't think so. No, I don't. What are you talking about? He's like, if you want to meet me, you can set up an appointment. I go, why the fuck would I want to meet you? And all of his suits around him were like, oh, how could you talk to Jeff Radway that way? I go fuck yourself. I mean, that's all I can say about them. You know what? I said to him, let me tell you something, Jeff. 2 years ago, you were selling track suits. Go back and do your history lessons in Colorado and California. All the first guys in, they were riding coattails to see where they're at now. They're out of business. Yeah. You'll be out of business.
Yeah. Plus, they were producing a very inferior product. From what I understand, a tasteless, just a horrible product. How could they match up to the superb caregiver product available in Michigan? Come on.
They can't. That's why they're afraid. They still can't.
Right. Yeah.
There's been a comedy of errors associated with some of these places, including, and even Skymints or Green Peaks raised funds kind of mysteriously, and they do certain things that are a little weird. The industry draws all kinds of people. Jerry, there's a real big move for social equity in the city of Detroit. What do you think about the proposal for social equity down there? You're on Detroit's doorstep in Walled Lake, essentially.
Yeah. I'm for it. I know that, some people are going to get mad at me for saying that, but honestly, I think a lot of citizens of the city of Detroit were left out. If we look back to where the dispensaries were in Detroit and how they got opened, and they were given medical licenses. No one was ever promised a rec license in Detroit. As far as I know, when they were given the medical licenses, because a lot of people were squatting, we know how that started, and they were given medical licenses. No one ever was told they could get rec licenses. So 75 licenses, there should be enough to go around. And the good players that were there for medical, if they get a license, so be it. If not, share the wealth. But let's be honest, we know everybody's made a lot of money in Detroit, a lot. And there's a lot of people that got left out in the cold. And if they can figure out a way to open a dispensary or grow or a process, then, more power to them.
Yeah. How's Walled Lake? Walled Lake at one point wasn't necessarily very friendly. And they had a long-term testing laboratory in that area too. How's it working with the city?
Well, the city's always been great. It was Oakland County. The sheriff for many years didn't like it. So Walled Lake was almost like, Walled Lake to me is the Ann Arbor of Oakland County. They were forward thinking. They allowed 3 dispensaries, and they got raided, and everybody went to jail. And then my one buddy had one of the dispensaries in Walled Lake. He decided to close it up, and I knew there was a license available. So I bought a building, couple buildings down from where he was, renovated it, cleaned it up, and wanted to be a good player. And I got licensed, and the other 2 continued to operate. I never opened because I didn't want to take a chance on not getting a license. And so I paid for my license at the city, didn't open, paid for my license again at the city for the next year, didn't open, and just waited. And nobody at the MRA could believe that I was licensed for 2 years and never opened. I probably gave up $5-6 million in cash, just profit easily, because there was no, tracking advantage. But I wanted to be a good player because, we need some good faces like you guys. We need some good faces in this cannabis industry, because let's be honest, we all know there's good faces and there's some bad faces in the industry. And the bad faces make us look real bad. So we need 10 times more good faces to make up for the bad faces. Yeah. So I wanted to be a good face.
every bad story that we see in the news media seems to erase, all the good things we've done, and we have to start back from zero, proving ourselves to people again, because somebody blew up their garage using RSO or something like that. I mean,
It's a constant fight, man, especially with the media, because with the media they want sensational headlines, and giving away 5,000 turkeys is cool, but somebody blowing up their house is much cooler video. It's all about clickbait. Let's be honest. So, that's the problem.
I think that once the MRA loosens up restrictions on advertising, and it's an opportunity for Greenhouse and other places to advertise in traditional media, all of a sudden those friendly stories will start to flow. Wouldn't you agree, sir?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's why I try to find every little nook and cranny to advertise or promote cannabis, but in a good light. And luckily I have my background's in television, so a lot of the reporters, I know the guys, I know everybody in the industry. So when they have a cannabis story, they'll come to me because they know they can come in, get their soundbite, and it's usually on point, and they go. It's not rambling for an hour or 3 hours. So you got to make it easy for them. But I'm calling them all the time with ideas. I'm like, hey, you guys like this idea? You like that idea? I got some cool stuff coming up this summer that we're working on right now, just to to put a good face on cannabis. So hopefully some of these things I got planned this summer don't get canceled.
What about vertical integration, Jerry?
That's a good question. I always thought you had to be vertically integrated, but I think in a mature market, that's the case. But I think right now, I don't want to be jack of all trades, master of none. And I don't want to have 500. I don't want to have a 500 member board that I have to answer to. So if a grower were to come to me, I might take it. But a friend of mine that has a very large company in Colorado told me a long time ago, don't get a grow. If you have a store, you don't need to grow. Partner up with some good people, help them, keep them alive, and do your thing. And as of right now, that's what we're doing. Maybe down the road, if I got a grow offered to me at a very, very, very reasonable price, maybe I would do it. But I don't know. I don't know about vertical integration, because all the people that are vertically integrated right now are choking.
Yeah, it's important to do one thing, do it very, very well, become, like you said, a master of that particular skill.
Yeah.
Vertical integration, for our viewers who may not be familiar with it, means that you grow, process, and then also sell cannabis, which means you need 3 different license types, 3 different set of circumstances, 3 different set of rules. There's some potentially secure transport that's involved in between those locations if they're not co-located on a single facility. So there's a lot of factors that enter into it, and it does make it impossible for one single guy to do it. You would have to have a big board. You're right, Jerry.
Yeah, look, I'm in no hurry. I mean, at the end of the day, money is not. I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but money's not that important to me. I mean, I have an Apple Watch and a lease car. I'm not driving a Porsche, and I don't have a Rolex. It's not. That's not who I am. And that's why giving back doesn't kill me. I bet you we probably gave $50,000 away last year, and we'll do it again this year. And $50,000 to one person—that's a lot, but. You know what? We're doing well, and it doesn't hurt me to give back. And it's the only way we're ever going to push cannabis to the normalization it needs to be, is by showing that we're good people.
And by building relationships. You're building relationships with your local community. You're rebuilding this underground railroad house. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's a fascinating idea.
Yeah, it was a house that was built in 1830. It's called the Banks House or Foster Farms House, and it was moved to this park right across the street. And the windows were all boarded up. It wasn't painted. So I was talking to the mayor, Linda Ackley, who's awesome with cannabis and has no problem with it. And I asked her what the deal was with it, and she told me. So I said, okay, let's fix it up. So I painted it last summer, had it painted. And then, I'm pretty good at putting people together. That way, I don't spend $500,000. So I got U Bake, which is somebody I work with a lot. They donated a bunch of money. I got some remodeling friends. An Ant Cliff Window Company decided that they could do the windows. So we all pulled in some money, got the windows at wholesale. So next week, we're going to put about $35,000 worth of windows in it, fix the doors. And my goal is by summer to restore. Channel 4 just did a story on it, actually. And we're going to restore one room. And I'm hoping by the summer beach party here they have in Walled Lake to at least open that one room to show kids like what the house used to look like. And it's kind of cool because I never even knew I knew there was plaster. I didn't know there was horsehair plaster. So it's kind of cool in the house because some of the plaster is ripped off the wall. I'm going to leave some of that so people can see that there's no such thing as drywall or hardy board or green board.
Does that literally mean that like horsehair was put in there to be part of the
horsehair
together?
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay. Yeah, horsehair plaster. I never even saw it, but yeah, it's horsehair plaster. So I'm going to leave some of that so kids can see, because today now it's drywall, beep, 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 beep. And not back in the day, man, you had to feather out the plaster. It's a whole different world. So I just want to get one room, and it's a part of history, and it's just sitting there falling apart. And it really, really resonates with the community. I mean, giving the turkeys away and adopting the families at Christmas was great, but doing something like this really resonates because it's community based, and I just think it's something you got to do. That's why I challenge all these other cannabis companies, man, do something different. Get out there and because a lot of the bigger guys come in and they're like, oh, I'll buy a park for you guys, or I'll buy 3 police cars. No, get involved in the community, more than just giving money.
And Jerry, is the eventual goal to turn that into a museum, so to speak? That sounds like what the usage you're describing.
Yeah. So it'd be like a mini museum, because I don't think we could ever afford to have the whole thing redone, because there's rooms, it's huge inside, and it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, but who knows? I'll take it one room at a time. One room at a time. If I can get one room done, it gets some people through it, get some more press, more people might want to help out. We'll do a second room.
Pot for plastering, pot for
there you go.
Yes,
pot for painting. That's right. Or maybe I get a cannabis company to each pick a room. I get, Cushy Punch gummies this is the Cushy Punch room. This is Tom Beller's Real Leaf Solution room. I mean, you never know. I mean, maybe the cannabis community will come and just give us a little coin of, hey, we'll name a room at, who knows?
Ryan's Room of Redemption.
Right. There you go. Ryan's Room of Redemption.
Redemption. Redemption. Okay. That's fantastic. What a great project. What else is going on? I know you said you want to expand to different locations and things, but what other philanthropic things are on the horizon for you?
I still work in the fight game, mixed martial arts. So I'm still heavily involved. I manage a guy named Fedor, a big Russian fighter. So
and he fights in Bellator.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Then I got 5 other guys underneath him, like the light heavyweight Vadim Nemkov. He's a champion of Bellator light heavyweight. So I got 5 guys that fight, and the fight game and the weed game kind of intertwined. Sometimes it's kind of interesting because I'm talking to some fighters right now that might have their own brand.
Is Bellator along the lines of UFC in terms of like not having a big issue with athletes who use cannabis?
Yeah, well, the UFC just changed the policy, so now they're not testing for it. So yeah, I mean, cannabis you can't advertise. I couldn't put the greenhouse logo on Fedor shorts, which would be phenomenal. But eventually you'll see that, because they're taking CBD advertising. So I think eventually, because Bellator is owned by Viacom, so Viacom has very high standards and practices that it's going to be once it's federally legal. I think you'll see it come in. But Nick Diaz, if you guys know who Nick Diaz is, Nick is a good friend of mine. Nick smokes down all the time.
He came out, or his brother did anyway, with the vape one time, and that's how it started an inquiry about it. And,
Nick and Nate, they're good dudes, man. They're really good young men. They come across as like thugs, and they're like, but they're not. They do
shit on their own terms, man. That's pretty respectable.
And they'll tell guys like Dana White to go F himself. You don't want to pay me, then I'll just sit on the bench, and they'll lock you down, and they just sit there and they'll smoke the weed and just hang out and just wait.
They get a big ass fight.
When Nick came out with his cannabis use, it really triggered a lot of other athletes feeling comfortable enough to come forward. His revelation, I think, started a cascade of other professional athletes, either current or former, who really started to expose the fact that the professional athletics are full of cannabis users.
I have a young man that works for me. His name's Jared Brooks. He's one of the top flyweights in the world at 125, and he works here as a bud tender, and he uses cannabis. They use creams, everything. They a lot of athletes, a lot of professional athletes use.
Much better than
cannabis.
The poison alternatives.
Yes.
Jerry, I wonder if you're familiar with our own state's controlled substances list.
Not really.
Our Michigan, most states have them. Some states emulate the federal, about the federal controlled substances list, obviously.
Right.
So Michigan has its own, and it mirrors the federal controlled substances list. And even though we've passed the MMMA, the MMFLA, and the MRTMA, cannabis still sits on it as a Schedule 1 and simultaneously as a Schedule 2 for when, in quote, it's being used medically.
I didn't even know there was a state list of drugs. I thought it was just federal, and that was it.
Well, obviously, it sits there in complete conflict to the law. I mean, what Schedule 1 is, right? No medical use, high.
Right.
It's
abuse.
the big lie. It's the big lie government says.
I had no
And
idea.
it's still connected to the criminal code, and it's still considered part of our regulatory scheme. And we keep on saying, take it off, fix all that stuff, you know? And for some reason, like, nobody steps up to do it, man. There's some
You can't
lawsuits.
say
And stuff.
for no reason, because there is a reason. There's money in that shit.
No, that is true. It keeps felonies alive. There are people that have like 2 pounds and they're still getting charged like a felony, as if like there's no legalization laws at all in Michigan.
It's crazy.
There's still child protective services issues, and it's because of its link to the criminal code.
Why is the state of Michigan still drug testing employees for cannabis? Come on, what's up with that?
The state of Michigan employees get tested for cannabis?
Well, yeah.
I say I did not know that. That's ludicrous.
It was going to be worked on, I guess, a few months ago. Maybe there's been some progress, but yeah, was pointed out during an interview last summer.
That,
you know, we work very closely with other groups like Last Prisoner Project and the Clemency Project. We're going to have Michael Thompson on as a guest next week, Jerry. And
okay.
You're familiar with Michael's story.
Yep.
We have a lot of work to do to restore some of the damage done by the war on drugs. Not all of it falls upon our shoulders, but when we see a job available, we should jump in with a shovel and take care of it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. And Jamie?
No, your reaction, Jerry, is very similar to a lot of people. You would think,
I had no idea, man.
Given our situation here, that like, no, we wouldn't still be having another scenario that's in complete conflict that still has consequences for people. That's what we have.
Well, I still think it's ludicrous that, I think it's still on the books, but they're not enforcing it, that you still, or it's not legal, that you still have to put the cannabis in the trunk when you leave the store.
Well, it might still be on the books, but go ahead, Rick.
There's a Supreme Court case. Is that People v. Latz? Is that correct, Jimmy? That overruled that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. Because what had happened is we staple the bags here, and about a year ago, a young lady came in and thanked us because we stapled them. She was driving when she left here. I don't know where she was at, but she was speeding, unfortunately. She got pulled over, and the cop let her go because the bag was stapled. It was on her passenger seat. He let her go only because it had that single staple in there.
Well, that was his own discretion, because there's nothing in the law that says it has to be like that in the car. It just has to be less than 2.5 ounces or
right. It's just funny. He told her he's letting her go because the bag is still stapled. So one staple saved her from a whole mess.
Somebody came up with that policy.
A staple.
Maybe himself. Maybe that's his own.
Right. Exactly. Right. He decided to get out of the car.
One county to the north, you don't get that kind of latitude. 3 counties to the north, you go to jail for that.
We got that.
There's no equality of the way people are treated in Michigan.
Rick was with me when we had an encounter. And the guy actually told us, and one of the things I got busted for was the transportation thing, and the
concentrates in the car.
And the concentrate thing too during the Carruthers issue time. If when anything other than flour or dry leaf or flour.
Stupid too.
But he tells us, if you were at the county north of here, they don't care about that.
He said that to you?
That's his busting us.
You boys are all going to jail tonight, son.
He's like, you're on the wrong side of the dividing line now.
It's like that Porky's movie. You got to get past, the county line.
God, Porky's. I haven't thought about that in a long time. That's great.
Dirty dancing.
Right. You got to get to the Porky's line.
There's still one of us, Jerry Millen. Oh my God. Classic. That is the greatest.
Hey, so we have some legislative efforts, or we're making noise about this deschedule thing in state. I'm definitely going to let you know about it.
Yeah, let me know, because I'm glad I know that now, because that's complete BS. So I'm going to talk to some of the reps that I know and be like, yo, man, why don't you take up this effort? And
if you also want to work in partnership with other like-minded places, man, Botanical Company would like to do some joint efforts and community outreach, and I know OHM does too.
When you say joint efforts, what do you mean exactly?
Work together.
Reach out to Mike.
Like smoke a lot of joints and work together to help people out.
Like joint efforts, no pun intended.
Hey, well, that'd be a great way to promo it, right?
Exactly. This is a joint effort.
Many joints went into this effort. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, I'm always happy to fight, man. That's the nature of me, that I like. I get bored real easy, so I like to fight. It's in me.
Oh.
We point that in the right direction, and that works.
Mm-hmm.
So you've stayed with the fight game for a while. You have history in that before cannabis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I started off as a reporter here in Detroit for sports, and then I went to LA for E Channel and then Extra in New York. And I hated television. I hated Hollywood because it was just not, people in Hollywood are just, they're out there, man. They're just very self-absorbed, celebrities. It's very strange out there. So I had to get out, and I got a job in Japan, in Tokyo, for about 10 years. I commuted back and forth to Tokyo. I've been there almost 200 times. A company called Pride Fighting Championships. It was huge before UFC. And then we had a little Yakuza scandal, which is a Japanese mob, if anybody knows about the Yakuza. Supposedly the company was run by the Yakuza. I never saw them. I don't ask those kind of questions in Tokyo, the Yakuza company. But we got a little problem, and we got kicked off network TV, and UFC bought us and shut us down. That's how I got into cannabis in the sense that I was traveling to Japan so much, I was watching my young children grow up while I'm on an airplane. So I'm like, I got to find something I could stay home. And I initially, 17 years ago, when I first started getting into it, I looked at it just as a business because I didn't know the medical effects of it. And I learned, took classes, met with CPAs, lawyers, took all these seminars. I met real patients, and I was shocked. I mean, Rick, you'll love this. My first Compassion Club meeting I went to was in Brighton, Michigan, because I did all my research. I went to all these dispensaries, and I thought I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in there, a bunch of stoners eating Doritos, because, the media really put us all into a box. And I'm like, I'm going to be the oldest guy in there. They're going to call me grandpa. I go in, I'm the youngest dude in the whole place.
You mean Doug Orton and Dondi Mike?
Yes. Yep. It was Doug Orton. Yep. Doug. I haven't talked to Doug in forever.
Brighton Area Compassion Club. Yes.
Yep. Nobody would talk to me. Yep. Nobody would talk to me for 3 meetings. So finally I asked this little grandma, I said, ma'am, nobody will talk to me here. What's going on? She's like, oh, honey, I'm sorry. We thought you were the cops. They thought I was an undercover police officer, and I was there to try to get them raided. I'm like, this is insane that this grandmother thinks that I'm a cop. I'm here to take her 5 plants that's on her back porch and put her in jail. And that's when I was like, this shit's got to change. This is crazy.
And that was a legitimate fear she had.
Yeah, that shit happened.
Legitimate fear. Yep. Yeah. And because at that time it was happening to everybody. It was a vet there. They went and took his car. They poured motor oil all over his floor. I heard all kinds of horror stories. They were peeing in the ovens and shit. I'm like, what? This is crazy.
Lady in the Tawas area put her plant in the front window. One plant in the front window, of her house.
And they came and got her.
And doing all types of shit over it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, and then there was the grandmother. The police came to return a cell phone that was lost. And roaches in her ashtray, and she didn't have her card, so they arrested her.
Yeah. There's a very famous case in St. Clair County too, where a couple of women were raided, and they hung their underwear from the ceiling fan, and just unnecessary destruction done simply for whatever purpose.
You heard about the sex toys, right?
Yes,
you heard about was it the same story? They took her sex toys and took pictures of them because they didn't want her to come and try to reclaim her property. Thought they would embarrass her.
Yep. And actually what happened is Robin Snyder, arranged her to come and testify in front of the Michigan House of Representatives, where she talked about what they took from her and what they had done. And that led to some of the asset forfeiture law reform that we saw. So
yeah, we needed that for sure.
And Camorn was her attorney too. Camorn and Fraser worked with her a lot in that. Yeah.
So we're looking at the actions, Jerry. Your Pot for Shots program is gone almost international now. Well, for sure international. Russia, you said, interviewed you earlier.
Yeah, and BBC will be out next week. So they sent me an email going, hey, how'd you like to take this thing international? We want to come do a story. I said, absolutely. Yeah. Let's do this.
Hey,
absolutely.
The Dildos for Justice campaign. We're being reminded in the part of what that was based
exactly on. What it was. I have the T-shirt. I wish I'd known we were going to talk about this. I'd have worn it.
What was it called?
Dildos for Justice.
You gave me an idea. Next Valentine's Day, dildos for dad. I'm just saying. I'm just
You're not going to recycle them. That's gross. Okay.
Only here can we go from Father Shots to dildos.
Yes, Cabbage Café.
Oh my God.
Oh, we had Razor Ray on last week, and I think pussy was his favorite word, and he said like 5.
Usually an endless stream of dick with Ray, and he shook it up a little bit. That's cool.
It's fun. I mark it as explicit when we put it on Spotify and all the different networks, so that everybody knows what you get when you come on. Jerry, it's been really fun talking with you. I don't know if you have any more time to give. We've got Jim Salame here too. We just left Apothecare, and we wanted to talk to him also. But do you have time to hang out, or is it?
I got Joey Koser is here at the store because Joey's a big cannabis advocate, so he's downstairs waiting for me. So I got to jump down there with him so he doesn't beat me up because he was the enforcer.
Former
So,
Red Wing Joey Koser. Yes, we
Very
know.
nice.
Yeah. So Joey's downstairs. So if I don't get down there, he might beat my ass. So, but I appreciate you guys, man. I miss seeing you guys. I'm sure hopefully one day we'll be all in the same room without masks and hanging out, sharing a doob or whatever.
We'll be in touch,
So,
man. Looking forward.
All right, man.
to it. Thank
All right,
you
thank you
very
guys. I
much, man.
appreciate
Great
it.
job.
Thanks
job.
for the time, brother. Take care, guys. Bye.
What a fun interview that
So,
was.
Shelly also has got her Reads and Weeds report. If you don't mind letting us know what's going on, and I'm excited about the fact that upcoming will be another Graham Hancock based discussion.
Yeah. Waiting to hear back from Richard. I think he's into it. We just got to get a date. And then Rory's working on getting Ed, because I want to either have Ed Rosenthal on and talk about one of his books, or I just thought it could be fun to have Ed on to talk about anything that is shaped, like what's your favorite book, and just do that. So I'm trying to get Ed. And then those two things are both working. And then I recently got a really fun message from a publishing company that found the podcast, and she works for like Sage. I don't remember what the name is. She has a really funny book by a brand new author who.
Oh no, we lost Shelly.
Oh, lost her.
Well, that sucks.
I'm sure she's
Yeah.
probably still talking as if she's online because she doesn't realize it. Dildos for justice.
Another picture of Daryl. He's shown up, and there's Melissa too. He's shown up a lot in our pictures lately.
Yes. Well, when we show pictures of the formative days, it's hard not to get Daryl in the photo because we did so many things with Third Coast.
That's true. Hopefully Shelly's coming back in now. She can pick up where she left off a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know how I got cut off, but maybe it's because I was walking in, taking my coat off and everything. But I don't know what you heard. Ed Rosenthal is in the works. The one with you, we've just got to pick a date. But I started reading that book, and it's very dense. It's no joke. You can't just casually listen. You need reference materials on hand. If any of you guys know Graham Hancock, his new book is America Before. And when you read a Graham Hancock book, which the audio version is 16 hours, 16 hours. You
Two
need
parts,
like
7 hours and 9 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, you need ancient text references. You need to be able to Google stuff and look at maps. Like, it is intense. But then the thing I was saying that's really fun is a publishing company found me, and they have an author who's really funny named J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote a kind of a little fantasy novel that, in a Fantasyland way, sort of tells the story of his cannabis adventure. And they're trying to get him to interview with me. So they're waiting on how to get me the book and everything. So good things happening.
So the name of this character is this author, J.R.R. Tolkien, instead of J.R.R. Tolkien, right?
Yes. Yes.
Lord of the
That's
Smoke
it.
Rings or something like that.
Hopefully he doesn't look like Bilbo, because, that's
Well,
possible.
I can't wait to get it. I think it'll be the lighter of, I'm excited about America Before, but it's not like just a light read. It's serious. It's
Really interesting shit, though. We'll break it
It's
down.
so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. But
We'll
like,
put it
I
in
was
layman's
trying-
terms. We'll read it for everybody else, and everybody can watch the show. And then
We'll read it for
know
everybody
what's
else. And then if you're brave, or if you're one of those people, some people just love to get into those super dense books. And if you're looking for something to delve into, then
read
Get it.
Fingerprints of the Gods, and then read Magicians
oh, okay.
of the Gods, and then read America Before.
And I think America Before, even though it just came out in 2020, is available at most libraries and everything, because I got it at the Ipsy Library, no problem. And there is an audio version. So if you like getting into those, yeah, that's the one by Graham Hancock.
Got it. It's at Ipsy Library with no problem, no waiting list. They not a big list.
Easy.
Oh,
Easy.
okay.
There wasn't a waiting list in the Ipsy community to get to the Graham Hancock books.
No, not at all.
For a while there, Shelley sounded like one of those women that's trying hard not to tell one of their friends that the dish they made and brought to pass is shitty. She's like, "Oh, it's very dense. It's some people would really get into that. I kind of looking forward to this lighter one over here, but
No,
There's
I'm
so
saying
much
some
information.
Books some books you pick up to flip through on the weekend while you're sitting on the beach. Some books you pick up to sort of rock your view of the earth and civilization. Those are two different types of books. And the Graham Hancock one, I enjoyed the crap out of the first one, but it's not light reading. Some things are like, oh, it's a great read. It's fast. It's fun. You can read it on the plane. This is not that book.
It's really interesting. And there's a few different levels. And I know that Richard specifically likes looking at the fact that there's all this evidence, but that a lot of the contemporary scientists and thinkers in the field and archaeology and otherwise are just not budging on the current kind of perspective on some of these things, even though there's new information now that should be expanding, the view about what's really going on here and changing maybe how we have been looking at history. But
think about this, Jamie. Think about this. What we've just been talking about is a very simple recategory, like a descheduling of medical marijuana, like taken off the deschedule. It is probably the stroke of someone's pen to do the most logical, simple thing in the world. So it's so challenging to get that done, that to jump forward and think somebody can change their whole world view if they can't take a pen and go, this has never really made any sense. Let's fix it.
Yeah,
we can't even do that.
Human beings get a preconceive something and internalize it, and even in light of evidence, even knowing the scientific method, it's hard for people to pull themselves out of something that they've just really just decided that this is the way it is at one point and checked it in, and to peel that away or unlearn that is really difficult, even when you're seeing the evidence.
Oh yeah.
And again, you're right. I was going to bring up the parallel. We see that in cannabis for sure. Of course, other people have other motivations to keep things as they are for having a better position on the issue, like the police and prosecutors and big money interests sometimes. But
by the same token, right now we're seeing our society willing to rewrite history books to reflect the actual role of African Americans and the way that history came around, how to more correctly portray things that happened in the past. Maybe this is a good time. Maybe there are people that are receptive to this. This conversation that you're having might just be a very timely initial venture and something that does pan out to be worthwhile.
I hope so. I don't remember who was saying, all the different ways that you try to normalize cannabis. And I realized that I never really want to go to a drinking book club, because my brain isn't like, hey, I'm drunk now and I want to think and be, you know what I mean? But with cannabis, it's very different. I do want to discuss great books, and that needs to be just very, very normal. And the fact that like reading a lot expands your mind, and so does cannabis. Reading a lot brings me peace and makes me feel more knowledgeable about the world, and so does cannabis. They're very much in the same category in my mind.
And separately, Graham Hancock talks about the issues he has when authorities try to limit individuals from doing what they want to do and how they want to explore their own consciousness by maybe using certain substances. Go ahead, Colin.
What's cool about Graham Hancock too is like, I think that if you ever listen to Kalindi from our, he passed away last year, from our psychedelic society, he has always echoed a lot of those same things that Graham Hancock is kind of talking about. If you ever you can look up his lectures online, but it's honestly a lot of similar information about those past the 10,000 years ago, what happened, kind of.
Well, Eric Von Daniken with his original series Chariots of the Gods started a lot of the stuff in the 70s, and there's a ton of work that's been done since then. And you're right, they still haven't updated some of these books.
And I remember Chariots of the Gods, that was cool, but they kind of inferred maybe aliens, and there's of course that thing on History Channel about, you know, aliens and stuff. I think it's just, you know, advanced lost civilization, as Graham is inferring. And in this book, we don't get into it right now, but people are familiar with the current story of humans making it over to North America via Beringia, what is now the Bering Straits, when there used to be a land bridge there. And then when the ice mass opened up well enough to get past it, they did, and came into North America and stuff. We found out that is not true, and yet that still is the current thought.
Hey, do you guys want to see who I hang out with a lot during the pandemic, since I'm by myself a lot? Are you ready to have your mind blown? Look at this guy right here. Look at that guy. Have you seen Moana? Remember the Coconut Army? Bam. Okay, that's all.
See Moana.
Right on.
See Moana.
Hey, and we have Jim, who is fresh off his visit to Apothecary. Thanks a lot for doing that, man.
Hey, no problem. It was really great to go there and get their support out and learn a little bit more about what they're doing. I had a great discussion with Lewis. I think he's one of the owners there, and yeah, it was really a fantastic visit. And to get their support, and then to be on with you guys and be able to report that is just really great. And I hope people watching out there that have a license, whether it be a grow license, transport license, or dispensary license, and so on, will see this as inspiration to also join and help contribute to Hash Bash for all the things that it's going to bring different organizations and future Hash Bashes.
Jim, if someone wanted to donate, if there was one of the organizations we just talked about watching this show right now, what would be the best way for them to do that?
I think to reach out to us directly. I mean, you can reach out to me, Jim Salame, SALAME @gmail.com. That's one way. I don't think we have an email set up for Hash Bash yet. So I should have had that prepared. But yeah, JimSalame @gmail.com. And if you don't email me, more than likely we're going to contact you and ask anyway. So one way or another, we're going
Just be prepared to flip over 420 and help out. And this will help out future Hash Bash. It'll help out the Freedom Foundation. It'll help out the John Sinclair Legacy Foundation.
Right.
It's all good.
That's right.
So just do it.
That's right.
And if you're interested, you can
Yes.
DM us at the Jazz Cabbage Facebook page or on the Jazz Cabbage YouTube channel, and we will forward that to the right person within the organization.
Or to Rick or myself individually. We'll
Right.
likewise handle it properly. So, man, that was pretty good stuff today with Jerry. That was a good conversation, and that promo has just, gone off the hook, man. Really happy for him for that. And I like that, those identified places that kind of have the like-minded philosophy of a patient focus, of community focus, not the big greedy kind of, approach. I can really respect that. We need more of that in that community and in the industry.
Well, here's the thing. He said they've given away about 4,000 joints. That means people have contributed 4,000 joints to this cause. That's a lot of upfront expense. If you're not firmly committed to this program, you stop after a couple hundred. He's really encouraged it, and he said he's going to stretch it out even further. Didn't he?
He extended it a month because there were some difficulties with the rollout, and it's so popular. I think the story went around the world, man. I mean,
yeah.
So good for the
So
promotion, but it's like based on a genuinely good thing, nice thing to do. So that's kind of cool that it works out like that. And he was not shy in saying about how he's effective with that kind of stuff. He's got good experience in that world. He's very well connected, and he does effectively get word out on his stuff that he does.
Well, the fact is, though, you're seeing someone who's consistently willing to give back to the community. We didn't even talk about the Christmas thing he did where they adopted certain families. It was just hinted at. But there's a whole list of things Jerry Millen and the Greenhouse have done in order to benefit people locally, including restoring the house from the Underground Railroad. Amazing.
Ohm I'd put in that category in spite of their previous management. They still managed to somehow come through and
Be nice.
be contributory like that.
Hey, you know, hey, no.
Yeah. But that's it. It's true. The ones
No,
that
and Jim and Ohm set the pace, really set the standard for a lot of that shit. Really, I mean, that's for that further community involvement and really being effective over time with these projects, the food gatherers, and so many other things.
Yeah, there's so many things that that all of us can still do. Dispensaries, you know, transports, even testing labs that to help reach out to the community. Even though you're not at the face of the community like a provisioning center, there's still stuff that you can do too to help with this movement. And one of those is contribute to Hash Bash 2021.
we want to talk about advocacy. Toledo Hemp Center founder Kevin Spittler used to have MedJoint, and they contributed thousands and thousands of pounds of food to Gleaners Food Bank of Western Michigan, and that was back in 10, 11.
That was an innovative place at large. In fact, we need to have Kevin on here in the next few weeks and talk about what's going on with him. And Brian came back on. I think he was driving, maybe went in and out of areas to be able to connect.
Yep.
There he is.
Yeah. Yep. I was. Thanks. I'm back on.
Nice. Hey man, how's the redemption line going? We talked about the foundation and the great work and how it's plugged into the Freedom Foundation, all that kind of stuff. But how is the actual brand going?
Brand's going great. I got a lot of good things are happening as far as the upcoming and expanding. Looking at getting interest from other states and being able to expand my criminal justice stuff that as well. But my goal is to be in 100 stores in Michigan, and I'm in about 55 right now. And a lot of the partners I've cultivated are expanding their stores, so that'll happen just like that. But next week, I'm excited driven processing new driver hit, and we're gonna the first 2 runs will have 16 different flavors, and it's gonna be great because the pricing on them we're gonna be at a wholesale mark where now it's gonna be able to compete with the distillate carts, and as everyone on here knows, there's no comparison between distillate, just THC versus live resin, which is the whole plant, which is what you want, nothing fake put in, and so that's exciting. And then on another note, a lot of the flower that I was able to source some great genetics about 9-10 months ago, and I'm not gonna say where, but I got them, and those are gonna start hitting here in the next month, and that'll be continuous. And I'm really excited about that, and really excited about even the stuff that I have coming, and I'm going to be able to bring to the market. Genetics wise, some of the top stuff that's even out west that's not in the regulated market, people are looking now to get in with the right company. And some of these guys that are able to sell $5,000 pounds, in the street, because everybody wants it, it's the best. Now, if they get into the regulated market, under a good brand, and it's cross-branded, but we live in a world now where that could be worth $1 million, $2 million just doing that. So I'm excited to stick to the heritage and try to bring now top stuff from Michigan and from out west or wherever, as far as genetics that aren't even in any regulated market yet. I'm really excited about that.
And you brought up Drew, Ryan, and he's one of many people who have been kind of a pioneer in this whole thing, who have been able to ride through a lot of the different phases of this process and get into the commercial market and do things really effectively. And Tom Beller, who we mentioned earlier, with he and Krista and Real Leaf Solutions. And then True Cannabis is about to turn on Kevin Pivus in Lansing, who's been around forever, his processing, and we're working with NLG, North Lansing Gardens, my good buddy Kenny, with his solventless brand and his genetics, and even talking to the Wave about bringing in some of his genetics to the licensed market for solventless. So just trying to do stuff that that I think is cool, and working with the best, and these guys are all
coming from the caregiver market that are, trying to do it the right way with the right people. So
And long-time relationships, right, with the right
Long time.
people. And
Yeah.
No, NOG is some good people and good product.
Yeah,
Shout
for sure.
out NOG.
Yeah,
Well,
I
again,
loved NLG, and I've recently, I was in prison. I got out. When I went in, there was just, we were still calling it earwax, and it was butane was popping in 11. And, now I've graduated finally to solventless, and man, I didn't know what I was missing.
Oh yeah.
I like the whole plant stuff, and we've talked about the weirdness or the misfire of like having basically all THC with a couple of terpenes pop back in and then saying it's like a particular strain and or even like sativa or indica sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, go to the Redemption Canna Instagram page. There's a post about cannabis myths I posted today about this whole misnomer of distillate carts being labeled indica, hybrid, and sativa. I mean, come on.
yeah, there's a lot of concern about definitions that are more marketing and less scientifically or medically accurate.
Yeah, like time to shine or all these feelings that you're getting, but you're just slapping on any old flower. And it still matters to me. It's still business and whatever. It's being honest with the consumer with the product that you're selling. So cannabis truth always wins out in the end. And 2 or 3 years from now, there's going to be some pretty like people will look back and be like, we'll all realize that, all these fake marketing tactics is not going to look good for some of you guys.
Like Jerry said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
It's true. And the fact is, the largest segment of the population in Michigan, I did this on Medical Monday, I'll do it again here. There's about 10 million people in adults over 21. The MRA says about 4 million of those are potential cannabis users. We know about 35% of adults in legalized states use cannabis, so that's about 2.5 million. If you're marketing to just that little sliver of 1.5 million people that might maybe at some point try cannabis, instead of marketing to the 2.5 million people that are already current cannabis users that don't need you to define it in 4 different need states, wakey, nighty, whatever they want to do. When you define it in those terms, you're insulting a lot of people at that point.
You think that like some of that approach is based upon just ignoring or not necessarily being aware of the 10 years or whatever of like the proliferation of non-state recognized centers, dispensaries around the state where people came for a long time and kind of maybe got people used to the idea of coming into a central location like that and getting their medicine. And as it grew up, I mean, those of us who were on here who were involved in that, all operated like that one way or another.
Well, I think what we're seeing is the net result of people do things that they're familiar with, right? And if you bring in marketing people from outside the cannabis industry, they market to cannabis in a way that they are familiar with because that's where their skill set is, and that way they're not learning on the job. They're bringing all that previous experience. But there's no other industry in the United States of America that has an overwhelming, popular and prevalent black market for the exact same product. You cannot market to our people the same way that you market to people that buy blue jeans, because we have different hot buttons, we have different language, we have different culture, and we have options when it comes to purchasing. If you want blue jeans, your only choice essentially is which store do I buy them from. If you're buying cannabis, your choice is essentially, do I even use a store? And if you're not marketing to people in that way, then you're really missing the boat.
But stores, part of my point, and I agree with that, is that stores are, even though licensing is only a couple of years old, they're familiar for over a decade to people.
Yes.
In a lot of places.
Yeah, if you're not using the people that have cannabis culture experience, cannabis industry experience, Michigan consumer experience, then you're underutilizing your resource. And if you're one of those companies that hasn't put one of those smart, intelligent Jim Salame type people on your staff, then you are really missing out. Because that kind of insight can't be bought from anybody that you brought in from another state or from another industry. You just can't substitute for that. That's why Ryan Basore is so damn successful with Redemption, because he's lived.
It's genuine, yeah. That comes through, man. That's what this emerging industry is. That's a big component of it.
That's because it's about the plan, and like that's the thing. If you don't have the plan in you, making decisions, it's crazy how it works. It's awesome how it's turning out. I think just the understanding and of making the right choices and doing things ethically. Just always seem to come back to the benefit and do good. So I'm excited about the industry. I know there's a lot of I was really excited after I was down in Oklahoma watching that down there. And I don't know if you guys I mentioned this the other day, but Oklahoma has more people of color that own marijuana licenses and business than the rest of the country combined. So that's real social equity. That is called barrier of entry, and people that love it are down there that couldn't get licensed in other states, and they're killing it, and they're doing well. And for me, watching some people I know down there, just it was the most impressive I've seen cannabis business run. And these are people that left Michigan, some of them, because of Bailey and Johnson. They sold their spot, they left. So, and they're killing it. And those guys are like the people that came up as caregivers. They know it, and they're kicking. The big companies down there, they go right out of business. They have no way of competing.
They're one of the places that still has small farmers contributing to the supply chain. You can get a license for cheap, have a small garden. If it makes the standard, you can get in. That's probably one of the reasons why there's a good balance of participation.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty wild too. Then you have all these Oklahomans, the young kids that are getting into it. It's awesome, but they're a part of a grow, and they get off one crop, and they think they're masters growers now too. So we've
seen that in Michigan too over the years.
Yeah, of course, but it's pretty fun to watch. And then a lot of the people, I'm going off on a tangent here, but a lot of the people that are down there, they don't have family there. They got nothing else. They came there. They're all in. It's all cannabis. They're 100% dedicated without distraction. So pretty cool. I think we're going to see some major players come out of Oklahoma that started just as small and, caregiver as it is, but they sharpened their craft, and they beat.
I know that Massachusetts is looking at possibly including a system, putting a component of that into their system as well, possibly. So I hope that gets the attention it needs there.
Yeah, these states that don't allow any home grows. I mean, as we all know, that's just
New Jersey just went legal, and that's they add another state on, but this late in the game and not even have home grow, not even a little bit for even
New
legalization.
Jersey doesn't have home grow?
Isn't that silly?
What?
Yeah. So that's why I've just said for years, it's not my original phrase, but each one of these states are crucibles of democracy. Each one of them coming up with their own plan on how to devise things. Some of them will do it well, some will do it less well. But everybody gets a chance to try their own program. And then when we do things on a bigger scale, we copy the successful models, or we adjust our state model to reflect what we've seen working in other states. And what Ryan just said, keeping a low barrier to entry, that is the only way to really do social equity, to let people actually compete instead of making them partner up with some huge corporate giant.
Social equity isn't, hiring a person of color and having them, do some marketing and media for them, and then in the background in Lansing try to pass laws that make it almost impossible for people that have had been disadvantaged to ever get a license. That's what the group we talked about, the business, the Manufacturers Association and all that, that's what they're doing. And that's just, it's not going to fly. They generally think that that's a good plan, and that's social equity. And come on, we're not going to let them get away with that.
What concerns me, though, is that we have a very corrupt legislature that's very responsive to dollars, let's just say, and that makes it easier for lobbyists with deep pockets to have big influence. And I'm concerned that sometimes those people that you just described have bigger and deeper pockets than our side does. about.
They don't have the relationships with the politicians. That's why Michigan's, we're lucky, and we talk about it. We've got all these we got into politics because out of survival. I know Deb's been doing it longer than us, but we out of survival. Like we used to only Jeff Irwin and Lansing, Virg Monero would talk to us. No one else would talk to us. So, you can't go into you can go into a New Jersey and hire the top 5 lobbyists and spend $1 million and get any law you want for cannabis. But they tried that in Michigan. You can't do that. Thank God, thank God. And we have our super majority. They got threshold they've got to go over. So.
Yeah, I just got to bring up something really quick. I was in a chat room last night with some people from Detroit, and they were talking about, the equity program there and how people from out of state are coming in and making all these promises to people to help them with their licensing, to help them partner with somebody, and they're charging upwards of $50,000 for this process, and it's they're not getting anything out of it. There's people are getting taken advantage of, and there needs to be something in Detroit to help those folks find their way into the program, and not through these people that are charging them to get there. So
Is there like
we talked about this
consultants or something?
possibility with the way
Yeah.
that it was laid out. We talked about that without the component of like teaching people about how this works and having resource to be able to get involved reasonably with it.
I
These
can tell you that
predatory type scenarios are going to happen. Go ahead, Rick.
on Facebook, I saw Mitzi Ruddock has posted a link to a meeting every Friday, specifically designed to assist people with the licensing process in Detroit. She's been working with James Tate's office, who's the councilman who
saw that,
sponsors
too.
this bill. So it's entirely possible that that's free assistance that is available for some people. But Jim, Jamie, you're absolutely correct. This is a time when sharks circle. They smell
Yeah.
interest. They smell money being dumped into something. They want to circle around and grab as much as they can.
If there's a scam, that someone will figure it out. There was something going on in Pontiac, like last year, maybe the year before, where I think it was some big corporation came in and they were charging people tuition to learn the cannabis, or learn like bud tending, and then they hired them. So they made people pay for their training for the job. It was the most ridiculous thing, and it was a scam, and all kinds of people got scammed. I don't think anybody got any work out of it.
Well, hold on a second. I'll just bop in for a minute. I have a friend who teaches at a cannabis school. They weren't, but just in case there's a couple of them, the one that she worked at, people were just wanting to learn about the industry, and then they could go out and know more. Literally, they were learning, like, I want to learn the difference between indica and sativa and how to take care of people, customer service and grows, and they weren't like being funneled towards a
Yeah, that's
company.
not what
They were
this was. They were funneled directly into these jobs. So it was basically a scam. We're hiring you. We're going to pay you $12 an hour after you complete the 60-day training that you're going to pay for. And then we're going to give you a certificate that says you're a certified bud tender now, and we're here now. Here's your job. So it was a big scam.
We don't necessarily get into this right now, but there are some efforts and some people who believe that there should be like mandated training state.
Yeah, but not something set up in a strip mall that somebody's charging somebody $5,000.
Well, that could be okay. I mean, I don't like the idea of the state mandating training. I like the idea of a company wanting to have knowledgeable people and taking it upon themselves to get that proper training for them.
Like
so
Oaksterdam kind of university.
That's not what this
model
was.
in Michigan.
Mandated training seems to me just like someone trying to insert themselves in the middle of a process in order to make some money. As long as training is available, and I think Shelley's right, there's some wonderful schools. National Normal has certification for cannabis proficiency. Americans for Safe Access trains staffs at staves.
Plus the certification things they have for all the components, the plant medicine standard stuff too, which is pretty cool. Hey, so as we're kind of winding down, I noticed that we didn't quite complete the conversation on reeds and weeds.
I just wanted to, so I wanted to say, my friend Nathan Corliss wrote a play. We first read it as a group back in December, and we were on Zoom, but we didn't record it or anything. He added a couple new scenes. I think it's amazing. It's called Three Centers. So we're getting that group of people back together to read his play for the first time, and we're doing it live on Facebook on Sunday. on the Reeds and Weeds Facebook page. It's called Three Centers, and it'll be sort of just like a live Zoom, you know, it'll be the debut of Nathan's play. And I'm really excited about it. I think he did a great job.
Awesome.
So if you don't have anything to do on Sunday at 1, or you want to listen to a brand new play, then live on Facebook on Reeds and Weeds.
Yeah.
That's all.
Of course, it'll be preserved this
Yes.
time because it'll be broadcast live and saved right there, and people could then watch it thereafter too.
Last week, Shelley had a gigantic box of mushrooms from her from the guy she dates. Who's at a mushroom.
Yeah, did you eat them all? What did you do?
Is this the mushroom farm that's in South Lyon?
Yeah.
Okay, I met the dude. Say hi. Tell him I said hi. I stopped there to get mushrooms a couple times, and he recognized who I was, so I appreciate him.
Yeah, and you brought some over to me. They were really awesome, all different cool colors and shapes. They were delicious. Yeah, it was really
a couple
cool
times
stuff.
early in their lockdown. I got them from him.
Did you meet Brian? Curly black hair? Brian?
I'd have to see him again to know who it was, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I've just been learning to cook so much with mushrooms, with ramen, with pizza, with soup, with lasagna, with
Detroit mushroom, but they supply a lot of the great
Detroit
restaurants and stuff like that in the area, man.
Yeah, stuff I've never seen before. I mean, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just your ordinary shroom, you know.
The lion's mane, chunks of lion's mane, fried in some butter.
Lion's mane, very healthy for brain health. Very, very good.
Yay! Hashtag Detroit Mushroom Company.
Yeah.
Please tell him. I'm not sure if it's the same dude or not, but please, whoever that is, tell him I said hi.
I made mushroom barley soup. It was really
yes,
good.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
that
I'm
sounds
so excited.
It was really groovy. Yeah.
So as we're winding down here,
as we talk about mushrooms, can I pitch the NPO
I was just about
show?
ready to say, let's hear about from
Look at
Colin
that.
about the NPO
Segue.
show. So make it clear that I was about ready to do that before I jumped the gun. But please, Colin,
I'm cooking
that's
with
exactly
mushrooms
what you
now.
should do.
Cool. And I want to get some of those mushrooms too sometime soon. I got to meet up with one of you guys. But last week on the NPO show, we had a really cool discussion with two kind of groups that are one, Decriminalized Nature Massachusetts and the Bay Staters group, and how they decriminalized mushrooms out and entheogens in Somerville and I think I'm saying that right. Is it Somerville?
Somerville and Cambridge.
In Cambridge. I think I might have said Somerset on the podcast. But that's in Ann Arbor. But it was a really cool conversation, and they had a really just how their group dynamic started and how they get at their lawmakers is really interesting, and how they have these like action hours every couple weeks where they just like write all their legislators, and they just they started off in Boston, and figured Cambridge would be a good first one to begin in, and Somerville, I guess, is next to Cambridge, and all the students live over there, and they put it on the agenda before Cambridge, so
I think it's Cambridge.
Cambridge. I'm sorry.
Isn't that
Shelley,
where John
I was
was?
worried about
Shelley's
Somerville. I'm
corrects
going,
me.
you should be worried about the other one.
Every
But
time I make a mistake, Shelley corrects me, but Colin's just rolling there.
Isn't that where John Sinclair was last
That's
month?
where
Or like
Harvard
a month ago?
University
Harvard, yeah.
is.
Yeah,
And that's how they
I'm sorry.
started.
that's where John
Past
was.
tense.
There's a
Created
street
sodium
near my
filled
house
John
called
enjoyed it
Cambridge.
immensely.
Didn't
I'm
call him
sorry.
out just because I was muted.
They started the show. One of the guys from Harvard started the show and said they're taking back the torch for psychedelics because they're the original
I
Yeah.
saw that.
pioneers of psychedelics
Totally.
in the 60s.
Yeah.
Totally, man.
And they let it go to the West Coast, but now they're reclaiming that.
Good for
And
them.
back to the mushroom story, just really quick. I want to just give a plug for these types of mushrooms.
Yeah.
When you cook these
Right.
up, these have a flavor of cannabis like no other mushroom. And I
Wow.
recommend people to pair their
They
cannabis
emulate a cannabis
with this
flavor,
type
or they work well with cannabis.
Maritake.
Yeah, yes. And
All right.
really, there's something about it, but you'll see the connection if you
So what are
Nice.
you doing with them? I mean, how are you preparing? How are you serving them?
I actually sleep with these. These are
Ah.
right next to me. No, I
You
just
hump
put them
them.
in
Okay.
little olive
Oh.
oil, avocado oil.
I'm going, okay.
Experience things with mushrooms in different ways.
You know, I eat them with my
Right.
eggs in the morning is what I'm
There
doing.
you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
sometimes I'll make some
Omelet there.
fish and throw them in there. But
Hopefully
Yeah.
not after sleeping with them.
Jim, anything more you want to add on?
As long
or
as he
Colin?
rinses them off, Berg, they're all right.
yes, tomorrow night at 6:30, there's a Decriminalized Nature Michigan meeting. You can access it through the Facebook page.
Oh, it's
It's gonna
next
be a
week,
Zoom
I
call.
think.
Is it next week?
Yeah.
Well, we'll say it again next week too to make sure
Yes.
people
Yeah,
know about it.
you're right, Colin. Thank you so much. Well,
Well, so
you got a week heads
still
up.
good to know.
Cooking
Yep.
with mushrooms. That's a
Hey,
new show, Shelly. Cooking with mushrooms.
They do put out some good info on their IG, the Detroit Mushroom.
Yeah,
House. It would
they
be
got
cool for you
beautiful
to.
Yeah, you
pictures
should
do that, yeah.
follow Detroit Mushroom Company.
I already
It's
do.
beautiful.
I already
Oh,
do. So I
good.
see all
So,
their stuff. Dude, but Jamie brought some over like months ago. They were so fucking awesome.
During the lockdown, it was great because that kind of
Yeah.
stuff is
Yeah.
great for your immune system. I talked to him about it
Yeah.
for a while. Like, this is the perfect food.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
bringing
he
in
never
this.
Hell
stops.
yeah.
Brian
Yeah.
never stops talking about mushrooms. He's kind of
Yeah,
like
they're
Michael
totally
Fire.
into it.
Nice.
Great.
Pictures of the stuff that
Yeah.
they've cooked is just gorgeous that they post.
Oh, yeah.
my
Oh,
God. Yeah.
He's a
Oh,
great
yeah.
chef
I
too.
love that
Yeah.
stuff, man. Hey,
Mhm.
what we got about medical? What's going on with Medical Mondays or otherwise, Berg?
What?
What?
You haven't been participating as much as you should, and we need a little spotlight on Medical Mondays and the great work that you do there, and whatever else you want to say before we leave.
Oh yeah, well, check us out next Monday. I'm not sure if you guys are gonna want to join us, Jamie and Rick, but I think we're going to be talking about a few people in the cannabis industry that are doing questionable practices, and
you're concerned that our feelings will be hurt, or
And
we
one
don't
of
want
them
to
is
hear
Rick.
about what
No,
we're
One
no,
of
talking
them is
about?
Rick Thompson, right?
I mean, I'll talk
Expose.
to you about it beforehand. So.
Yeah.
Not you personally, maybe some of your friends.
Oh, I totally got it.
Oh,
I totally got it.
okay.
I totally got it now. Okay.
It's no problem.
There was an
Yeah,
incident
okay.
on this very show. I think that's related maybe to this, and there's a sensitivity surrounding it, and maybe that's why you're.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. And now Rick does too.
No, I don't, but you'll explain it later.
Okay, I will.
Next Monday, 9 p.m.
Next
Eastern
Monday we'll be
Standard
pissing some people off. All right, so show up.
Oh.
Deb, anything you want to throw in there?
No, I just said I remember the incident well. That's why I was chuckling over here.
So the family of podcasts going on. Rick's going to be doing his 420 post tomorrow at 1 o'clock. That's going to be a cool one because the first people to receive micro business licenses, there's 2, and the first 2 are going to be on to discuss what's going on with that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Of course, I do the cannabis news for 420 Post every week, and this is a great discussion. A lot of interest in this particular business type, and it's very poorly understood and not well taken advantage of. And Jamie, of course, every Thursday evening, Planet Green Trees.
What about that daytime thing you're doing?
We're getting on IG,
That morning thing.
Instagram, 9:30s most mornings, 10:30 on Tuesdays because of the previous 9:30 commitment on that day, and kind of keeping the discussion going.
And I look fabulous even at 9:30, so tune in for that.
So it's all.
Well, what's going on with you, Colin?
I already said my Entheos show shit. It's already been
Like,
done.
It was still kind of nice of Berg to
Shut up.
make
Shut
sure
up.
that you had a spot though, just in case you needed to throw a little bit more in. That was kind of.
Jim, one more plug for Hash Bash and the funding. If anyone wants to contribute, how can they get a hold of you and find out more information?
Jim Salame, Salame @gmail.com. Again, Jim Salame @gmail.com. It's 420 to be a sponsor. This sponsorship will get your name and some exposure during the entire 2-hour programming. If you want to donate a little less, then we'll be open to that. But you're not going to get the exposure you're going to get if you donate the 420. That money goes towards helping the Freedom Coalition that's helping people get released from prison. That's also helping the John Sinclair Foundation, which without John Sinclair, we wouldn't have a hash bash.
Preserve his legacy. Yeah.
Yes, and then it's also going to go towards next year's hash bash, which it's going to be outside, and we want to make it really special. So we're going to definitely have that some of those funds going towards that. It's going to be transparent, so we're going to share exactly where the money's going, so people know it's being put to use well.
It's going to be a great one. We have to be, some people are going to show up, but we can't just have a hash bash. The permits aren't going to be given out. It's not going down this year.
Yeah.
But next year it will be. And this year is going to be cool too. It's going to be a really nice production. And next year will be return to the Diaz, and that will be very special.
Last year's digital hash bash was an excellent adventure.
Really good.
Certainly set the stage for this year's success as well.
Yep, it was fun last year. A little wild, but it was fun.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie.
So long ago it was Skype, we say. All right, well, thanks everybody. It was a great show. Ryan Basore was on, Jerry Millen was on. We didn't hear from Stacy. She almost made it on, but we will hear from her soon because she'll be on with Richard DeLisi and his daughter probably in a few weeks.
We had Drew Hall from
Oh yeah,
Thanks to
yeah.
Drew
we
Hall.
did.
He'll be
We
on in a
did.
couple weeks to
Foster care.
talk a little bit more about that operation, which is very cool and unique. And they, of course, participated in Hash Bash, and we appreciate that. And all the great shows. And thanks, everybody. Jazz Cabbage Cafe. See you again next week.
Bye, bye.
See ya.